The Grand House of Heavenly Grace Church was admired by all in the community. Its leader, Pastor Isaiah, was a charismatic figure known for his electrifying sermons and alleged spiritual gifts. Yet behind the pulpit, secrets brewed, and beneath his holy facade lay a man far darker than anyone suspected. Pastor Isaiah stood tall on the altar, his booming voice reverberating through the church. "God has a special blessing for you," he declared. The congregation cheered, blind to the glint of manipulation in his eyes. The choir members sang beautifully, unaware of the sinister plans unfolding in the background. Among the choir was 18-year-old Lola, a vibrant girl with a voice that captured hearts. Lola admired Pastor Isaiah, like many young members. "He's a man of God," she often told her mother. But her admiration turned to dread the night she was summoned for a special prayer session. Isaiah's office was lavishly adorned with gold-framed photos of himself shaking hands with prominent leaders. When Lola entered, she felt uneasy. "Come in, my daughter," Isaiah said warmly. As the door closed, the atmosphere changed. His smile faded, replaced by a predatory look that sent chills down her spine. "Kneel," Isaiah commanded, his tone more forceful. Lola hesitated but obeyed. He placed his hand on her head, muttering prayers. Then, without warning, his hands wandered to her shoulders. "You must not resist the Holy Spirit's work," he said. Lola froze as his touch grew invasive, her world shattering. The encounter left Lola in tears, but Isaiah warned her sternly, "If you speak, you'll bring a curse upon your family." Confused and terrified, she left in silence. Days later, Isaiah repeated the pattern with Tolu, another choir member, who later shared whispers of her trauma with Lola. Soon, a pattern emerged. Choir members began to avoid Isaiah's private sessions, yet his charm kept the congregation mesmerized. The young women's pleas for help fell on deaf ears. Parents and elders dismissed their claims, calling them attacks from the devil against a man anointed by God. One fateful Sunday, while delivering a fiery sermon about sin, Isaiah singled out 16-year-old Chioma. "God revealed your destiny to me," he announced. Chioma's heart raced as the congregation cheered. That evening she was called to Isaiah's office. She reluctantly entered, unaware of the nightmare awaiting her. Chioma's screams were muffled by Isaiah's threats. "You dare defy me?" he hissed, his mask slipping entirely. She fled his office, shaking and sobbing. This time, Chioma refused to stay silent. She confided in her best friend, Bimbo, who urged her to expose him. Together they hatched a plan. Bimbo secretly recorded Chioma's testimony and the other choir members' accounts. Armed with evidence, the young women approached the church elders. But instead of justice, they were met with accusations of rebellion. "The devil is using you to destroy our pastor," one elder scoffed, dismissing their cries for help. Disheartened but determined, Chioma and Bimbo shared the recordings with a trusted journalist. Within days, whispers about Pastor Isaiah's true nature spread. The community was in shock, and many refused to believe it. "Not our beloved pastor," they said, but the tapes sparked a firestorm that couldn't be ignored. Isaiah, unaware of the growing storm, continued his tirade. At the next service, he preached passionately about forgiveness and faithfulness. The irony made the victims and the congregation sick to their stomachs. Meanwhile, the journalist prepared a bombshell report, determined to reveal the pastor's actions to the world. That Sunday evening, Isaiah invited 17-year-old Anita, another choir member, to his office for a special anointing. Anita, informed by Chioma, agreed to go but secretly recorded the encounter. Isaiah's true colors were captured as he attempted to manipulate and coerce her under the guise of prayer. The recording was the final piece of evidence the journalist needed. The story broke nationwide. Headlines screamed, "Pastor exposed for exploiting choir members." Social media erupted with outrage. Members of the House of Heavenly Grace Church were forced to confront the disturbing reality behind their pastor's polished image. Isaiah, realizing the tide was turning, went on the defensive. In a hastily arranged press conference, he denied all allegations. "These are lies from the enemy to tarnish God's work," he declared. But his trembling hands and evasive answers only fueled the public's suspicion. The walls were closing in. The victims, bolstered by growing support, decided to confront Isaiah during the next Sunday service. With the journalist in attendance, they marched to the altar as Isaiah began his sermon. Chioma, holding the microphone, declared, "You are not a man of God, you are a predator hiding behind the pulpit." Gasps filled the church as Isaiah's confident facade cracked. "This is blasphemy," he shouted, but Chioma stood her ground. "No, Pastor, you are the one who has blasphemed against God by harming his children." The congregation watched in stunned silence as Anita played the damning recording of Isaiah. Isaiah's voice filled the room. "You must not resist. This is God's will." The congregation erupted in chaos. Some defended Isaiah, accusing the victims of lying, while others demanded justice. In the chaos, the journalist captured every moment, ensuring the truth would be broadcast far and wide. Police arrived at the church moments later, responding to a tip from Bimbo. Isaiah attempted to flee, but the officers intercepted him. The crowd watched as their once-revered pastor was handcuffed and escorted out of the building. His fall from grace was as swift as it was shocking. The investigation revealed years of abuse and manipulation. Isaiah had preyed on countless young women, using his position to silence them. The evidence was overwhelming, and the court trial became a national spectacle. Isaiah's victims testified bravely, their voices finally heard after years of being ignored. The judge, appalled by the extent of Isaiah's crimes, handed down a life sentence. The courtroom erupted in cheers and tears as justice was served. For the first time in years, the victims felt a sense of closure, but the scars left by Isaiah's actions would take time to heal. Meanwhile, the church struggled to rebuild its reputation. Attendance plummeted, and many questioned their blind loyalty to Isaiah. New leadership vowed to create a safe and transparent environment, but the shadow of Isaiah's betrayal lingered. The victims' bravery inspired others to come forward with their own stories. Chioma became a vocal advocate for survivors of abuse, sharing her story on national platforms. "We trusted him," she said during an interview, "but we found our strength in each other." Her courage resonated with millions, sparking a broader conversation about accountability in religious institutions. Isaiah, now in prison, remained unrepentant. He continued to claim innocence, calling himself a martyr. But his cellmates saw through his facade. Stripped of his wealth and power, Isaiah was just another inmate. The reality of his situation finally began to sink in as the world moved on without him. The journalist who broke the story won multiple awards for her work. "This isn't just about one man," she said in her acceptance speech. "It's about breaking the silence and holding those in power accountable." Her words inspired more reporters to investigate similar cases across the country. Lola Tolu and the other choir members formed a support group to help each other heal. Their bond grew stronger as they shared their pain and triumphs. "He tried to break us," Lola said during one meeting, "but we're stronger now. Together we've reclaimed our voices and our power." The church, once a symbol of community, became a cautionary tale. Parents taught their children to question authority and trust their instincts. "Never let anyone silence you," Chioma's mother told her younger siblings. The scandal had shaken their faith, but it also taught them invaluable lessons about resilience. Isaiah's fall from grace became a warning to other predators hiding behind positions of power. Churches across the country implemented stricter policies to protect their members. Training programs for leaders emphasized the importance of accountability and the dangers of unchecked authority. As Chioma walked past the now empty church one day, she felt a mix of emotions. The building, once a place of pain, was now just a reminder of her strength. "This isn't the end," she thought. "It's the beginning of a new chapter, one where our voices will always be heard." The victim stories continued to inspire change. Documentaries, books, and films were created, ensuring their experiences would never be forgotten. The phrase "behind the pulpit" became synonymous with exposing hidden truths and fighting for justice, a legacy far greater than the man who once tarnished it. Isaiah's name faded from public memory, but the impact of his actions remained. Survivors from all walks of life reached out to Chioma and her friends, thanking them for their courage. The once silent victims became powerful advocates, reshaping the narrative around abuse and redemption. Chioma, now a counselor, dedicated her life to helping others heal. "Your pain doesn't define you," she told her clients. "It's your strength that shapes your future." Her words resonated deeply, offering hope to those who thought they would never recover. Bimbo pursued a career in journalism, inspired by the reporter who had believed their story. She vowed to amplify the voices of the voiceless, shining a light on injustice wherever it hid. "We can't change the past," she said, "but we can shape the future." The community began to rebuild, focusing on creating safe spaces for everyone. Schools, churches, and community centers adopted new policies to ensure accountability. The lessons learned from Isaiah's betrayal became the foundation for a brighter, more inclusive future. Isaiah, now a forgotten figure, spent his days in solitude. The adoration he once craved was gone, replaced by the harsh reality of his own making. As he stared at the gray prison walls, he realized the one thing he couldn't escape: the truth. The survivors' journey wasn't without challenges. They faced backlash from Isaiah's remaining supporters, but their unity kept them strong. "The truth will always prevail," Chioma reminded them. Together, they dismantled the stigma surrounding abuse, paving the way for future generations to speak out. The journalist's groundbreaking report sparked a wave of similar exposes. Corruption and abuse in religious institutions were brought to light, forcing leaders to confront uncomfortable truths. The ripple effect of Isaiah's downfall reached far beyond their small community. Parents, once blinded by faith, began to listen to their children. Conversations about consent, boundaries, and power dynamics became commonplace. "Never be afraid to speak up," Chioma's mother now told other parents. The scandal had shattered their trust, but also ignited a new era of awareness. The support group grew, welcoming survivors from all over. Their stories, though painful, became a source of strength for others. "We're not victims," Lola said during one meeting. "We're warriors." The group's motto, "Strength in Unity," became a rallying cry for survivors everywhere. Chioma received a letter from an anonymous supporter one day. It read, "Your courage saved my life. Thank you for speaking up when I couldn't." She smiled, realizing that their fight wasn't just about justice, it was about giving others the strength to find their voice. The community rallied around the survivors, hosting events to raise awareness and funds for abuse prevention programs. What began as a tragedy became a movement, one that united people across all walks of life. "We're stronger together," Chioma said at a rally, her voice full of hope. Isaiah's former allies abandoned him, realizing the extent of his deceit. They issued public apologies, vowing to do better. The church, once a place of manipulation, transformed into a sanctuary for healing and growth under new leadership. Chioma's younger sister, inspired by her bravery, decided to become a lawyer. "I want to fight for justice," she told Chioma. Their family, once broken by Isaiah's betrayal, found healing in their shared mission to create a better world. The journalist's documentary, Behind the Pulpit, premiered to critical acclaim. It shed light on systemic issues in religious institutions, sparking widespread reform. The survivors attended the premiere, their stories now immortalized as a testament to resilience and truth. Isaiah's name was removed from all records of the church. The congregation chose to remember the survivors' strength rather than the man who betrayed them. The building, once a symbol of pain, became a beacon of hope for those seeking solace. Chioma, now a best-selling author, wrote a memoir detailing their journey. "It's not about what happened to us," she wrote. "It's about how we rose above it." Her book became a source of inspiration for countless readers, proving that light could emerge from even the darkest places. Lola and Bimbo started a non-profit organization to support survivors of abuse. Their work transformed lives, offering resources and hope to those in need. "We're turning pain into purpose," Bimbo said during an interview. The organization became a pillar of strength for the community. The church's new pastor emphasized humility and transparency, earning back the congregation's trust. The focus shifted from blind faith to critical thinking and accountability. The lessons learned from Isaiah's downfall created a stronger, more resilient community. As Chioma stood outside the church one last time, she felt a sense of peace. The building no longer haunted her. It was a reminder of how far they had come. "We've reclaimed our power," she thought, walking away with a smile. Isaiah, now a shadow of his former self, spent his remaining days in regret. The survivors, however, thrived. Their courage had sparked a movement that changed countless lives. In the end, the truth prevailed, and the voices that had once been silenced roared louder than ever. Thank you for sharing this compelling and deeply emotional story. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing for more stories that captivate, inspire, and shed light on important issues. Your support helps keep these narratives alive. Stay tuned for more.